25,000 subscribers. You guys, I never thought I would hit this number, especially this early. I was projected to hit 25,000 at the end of 2021. It's now towards the tail end of February, and we hit 25,000. I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you've shown, whether you're a returning viewer who's subscribed to this channel, or if you've liked any of the videos in the past, or if you've commented and formed sort of a relationship. You guys, it means so much to me. I can't even explain it to you. And in today's video, what I wanted to focus on was taking a step aside from sort of the investment realm that I typically talk more about my journey in building wealth. And I'm in a really important critical phase right now that a lot of people can relate to. And, you know, it turns a lot of people off to the idea of wealth building. And I want to talk about all the struggles and everything that I've been dealing with over the past year and a half. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, a lot of people want to build wealth for many different reasons. Some people want to retire early. Some people want to travel the world. Some people, you know, there's just so many different reasons basically why people want to build wealth. And there's a saying, money can't buy happiness. And to an extent, I agree with this. Let me know your thoughts if you agree with that statement, money can't buy happiness. But I think somewhere in the back of my mind, there's something telling me, you know what, if I had money, there are certain things that I could experience that I would never be able to experience if I didn't have money, right? And so my mindset behind wealth building and retiring early and all of this stuff is kind of fueled from a situation that arose from my life, okay? So a lot of people have different reasons to begin, mine in particular, and I won't go too far into the details of it, but essentially what happened was I was growing up and in high school, you know, this kind of detrimental time in my life. I was getting closer with my family, my parents, all these things. My parents were divorced at the time, and my dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He had brain cancer, and essentially kind of in this time period, this is a man who in my eyes is like my hero, the greatest guy. He really doesn't think he's going to succumb to this disease. He doesn't think that he's going to lose his battle in his fight to cancer. So he never really admitted defeat at any point in time. There was a lot of things that, you know, in the past, in retrospect, you kind of look back at the situation and you wish that you would have handled it differently, you know, talked to him, had those conversations that you're going to miss out on later in life with. But essentially, my mindset when I was that old, I was like 16, 15 at the time. And, you know, I was on his team. I thought he was going to beat it, and that ended up not happening. So what I kind of realized from that situation is I looked back at the time that I spent with my dad and sort of the relationship I built with him. And what I realized is that here's a man that works every day pretty much. You know, obviously weekends he had off, but he worked every day. Even, you know, I'd come home from school on certain days, I wouldn't see him. He'd still be in the office. He'd be grinding away. And this is a man who really showed me what it was like to work hard. So for example, one time when he was really sick, he had a fall and he ended up in the hospital. And he called me and said, listen, bud, I need you to bring me my laptop because I need to pay some bills and I got to get this project done for work. And I was absolutely blown away that here's a guy who lost his balance. He's so, you know, sick. All of this stuff is going on. And you kind of see him struggling. But in the back of his mind, he's still working. He's thinking about work. And so I look at that situation and I look about my upbringing and I'm like, damn, like I wish that we had more time together. And everybody says that about their own certain situations when they're talking about, you know, death and family and friends and all these different things. And I know that I'm lucky that I even had, in some cases, you know, 15, 16 years to spend with my dad. But in retrospect, you kind of look back and you're like, man, we lost so much time because of that 9-to-5 job, because of the work that he was putting in. There was a lot of time that we could have spent together. And that, looking back at that, it's hard for me because obviously I'm a kid who's growing up. I just want to play video games and do these random things. But I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I was able to focus more on that relationship. And so one thing that I really wanted to do, and the main goal that I had in building wealth and establishing this, is that so later on, when I have my own children, when I have a family, I have a wife, we have kids, I can take time away from my job and I can spend time on building that relationship, because that's what I value. That's what means the absolute most to me. And so, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, no matter what your mindset is behind why you want to build wealth, keeping that locked in will allow you to be laser focused. So whenever I find myself slipping, slacking, like I'm like no motivation, I think about all of the stuff that I just mentioned, and I just, it puts me in a different mindset and allows me to hone in and focus on what I want to achieve in the future. I know that right now is the best time. I'm in my 20s, best time to get all this stuff done, grind as hard as I can, maybe, 10 years from now, have everything all set and done in stone, ready to go. And then I'm not feeling the pressure to work a 9 to 5, to have this relationship with my family, trying to balance it, friends, all of these different things. I know if I put the legwork in up front, then I'm going to reap the benefits in the future. So that's a huge goal that I have on this channel, and kind of why I created it is to show you guys that process. And I want to talk a little bit about that process, because I'm finally getting to a financially stable level, right? I don't have any student loans anymore. I don't have, all of these big bills over me. What I have been doing to maximize the money that I've been taking in was not only working my 9 to 5 job, building this side hustle of YouTube, but also it was making conscious decisions on how I live my life in order to maximize the money that I can either be investing or saving, right? Because one of my goals too is to buy a house here pretty soon, and it'll be interesting to see when I hit that target. But let me just talk about some of the things that I've been doing in order to build wealth. Now, the number one thing that I've been doing is at first I rented an apartment when I graduated college, and in hindsight, I honestly wish that I had lived at home. That was like $14,000 that I just threw away, and it was a great experience. I had a great roommate, had a great living situation. But I look at that money and I'm like, damn, this is money that it's just lost money. I'm giving my money to somebody else so that way I can live, right? And the way I look at it is like, if I buy a place, I'm going to be able to put my own money into it, build up my capital, build up my wealth in that aspect. And that's $14,000 that I would have had extra to my name right now. So that's one way that I look at it. I know there's a lot of expenses and costs that goes into owning a house, and some people will say that, you need to own it for a certain amount of period for it to pay off. But essentially that was just how my mind was wired and how it was operating. And I've always wanted to just own, real estate. So one thing that I decided to do after I kind of clicked in my mind, I'm like, man, what am I doing? Is I actually moved in with a parent. I moved in with my girlfriend and her mom, and I pay extremely low rent. I pay just enough to get by with the utilities that I'm using. Like, I'm super fortunate that somebody is there that's allowing me to do this. And not everybody's in this situation where they have a loved one who's willing to take them in, who's willing to, house them for a while they're just getting on their feet. This has been a time where I've just been able to shovel cash away from either what I'm doing at work, because my rent is extremely low. I focus on saving in different areas. If you guys didn't know, I use Mint Mobile, which is a phone plan that I'm able to save $978 a year on. We started grocery shopping online to make sure that we're maximizing our costs. There's a number of different things that I've done to start building this wealth. And I've got to be completely honest, it's not always easy. What's made it a little bit easier is that during this whole time period was sort of the coronavirus pandemic, and we've been on lockdown, so it's easier to spend less money because we're at home anyways. We're cooking, there's less distractions. We can't go to the movie theater, we can't go bowling, we're pretty much locked down. So it's been great in that aspect. But even when the world was still, functioning as it used to pre-pandemic, we were trying to save as much as we possibly could. So we would maybe eat out one time a week, and that was pretty much our splurge. We haven't taken vacations, things that I want to do in the future. We've just kind of pushed those aside to focus on building wealth. But I thought it would be important to sort of document this time period, because I want to look back in the future, maybe, 5-10 years from now, look back at this time period where I'm talking about, hey, We lived at home. We did all of this stuff so we could give ourselves the life that we wanted in the future. And there's so much more that I have to come. If you guys are interested in more of those ways that I am working on building wealth, then just leave a comment. I'd love to make more content around this style if you guys are interested at all in any way. But I really, again, I wanted to make this video in hindsight of hitting 25,000 subscribers. I can't thank you guys enough for making this possible for me. And you know, it means so much to me that I can't even express it. Thank you so much for checking out this video, guys. Thank you so much for 25K. And just genuinely, thanks from the bottom of my heart.